Hello and welcome to the Red Room. We haven't had interviews or guests lately, but well, today we have one. DM Blackwall or Todd, right?
That's correct. Good to be here.
Todd, what's
Hello.
how can I pronounce your surname? Rizima? Rizima?
Ritsema. Yeah, it's
Rizima.
a Dutch last name. It means son of a rich man. It's a vicious lie.
So uh, let's start by talking about your game. I think that's probably the most important thing that we have to talk about. When did you release Horde Wars? Or it's
We released
Horde Wars
Horde
Basic?
Wars. Horde Wars Basic 2 months
The
ago.
basic belongs in the name, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
We've got Advanced slated for 12 to 18 months out. But yeah, Advanced we released 2 months ago. We've been pretty happy with sales. We've hit about 20% of our target number for this year, like for this next 12 months period in the first 2 months. So I'm fairly happy with that if we can keep that going.
Yeah, sounds good. You had some idea of how many items you'd sell, so I guess.
Well, it's really more of a goal so that our sequel books are profit bearing and not losses.
Mhm. So the sequels are
Some people plan, Miguel. Not everybody does things the way we do.
yes, I know. just checking, kind of. So the sequels are already done.
What was that?
Uh, I I have a cat here now, of course.
Oh yeah.
She was attacking my camera and my screen, of course.
Yeah, you guys have a few cats, right?
Yeah, too many, too many. It was
A
just one
few
of six.
and a little bit more, yes.
Yeah. Just one of six. Okay, so I was asking you about the sequels.
Yes.
They are done and ready to release now.
So Advanced, the writing is mostly done. I have to rewrite the setting chapter to fit our format a little better. We got the layout guy hired, but yeah, the rules text is finished. We did about 1,500 hours of play testing on it. We want to make sure that it's a robust and fun system to play, and so it's really a direct sequel to Basic, and it's just Horde Wars Advanced, and that one covers basically character levels 5 through 12 and includes rules for like nautical combat, running your own domain, other kind of higher level or more niche stuff. Whereas Horde Wars Basic is really focused around dungeon crawls and wilderness exploration and lower level play.
So you're following that basic expert and I can't remember what was it after that. Basic expert and
Oh yeah, that kind of idea.
the
Well,
D&D thing. Yeah.
yeah. But a lot of people like to ask us why we picked the D12.
Yeah, it's not very common.
Yeah, well, that was one of the reasons. Actually, we felt it was an underutilized die. But also, we picked it because it allowed us to build a game system that streamlines some stuff in a way we couldn't do if we used a D20. Specifically, we wanted to have increased odds of critical hits. Well, by shrinking the die size and keeping a maximum roll as a crit, that you achieve that. So we've almost doubled the odds of you getting a critical hit in our game compared to a typical weapon in like D&D. We've also made it so that spells can crit. Most damaging spells are attack rolls. So you could roll a natural 12 and do double damage. And we kind of embedded this. There are usually a lot of the weapons have some special effect if you crit in our game, and so that was deliberate. That's why we wanted an increased amount of crits to really let the weapons behave they would historically, or close to it anyway. And then the other reason, though, is it let us embed penalties So you roll a d12 and add a bonus as the kind of the core mechanic, aiming at a target number, right? That's how you resolve most of your actions. Well, we were able to go, okay, if you would be cursed or if you're exhausted or fatigued or that kind of thing, we can just shrink the die size. So you're rolling a d10 or a d8 or a d6 and adding that number. So rather than doing extra math, those kinds of penalties are just embedded in the die itself, which speeds up gameplay.
Yeah. Okay. I get that. So basic is just a game system, not a setting.
Correct. We do have a little bit of the setting, including like a starting area with a village. In fact, if you've got a copy there, I shared with you. If you
Yes.
hop in there and go to chapter 13,
Mm.
you will let me know when you're there.
I'm not.
Depending on your PDF viewer, if you're using, for example, Chrome, you'll be able to.
I was just I was using that, but I've downloaded the PDF, so it's easier now. Okay, so it's at chapter 13, right? Okay,
Chapter
I'm
13, yeah.
there. Okay, yeah, I'm there
Yeah,
now.
so chapter 13, there is a sample adventure. It's a 2-page adventure. And so including a map in there of the goblin cave in question. And you're dealing with, basically you start at a bar, you get
I
attacked
can
by a
show
bunch
it now
of
if you want.
goblins. What's that?
Share the screen if you want.
Oh yeah, perfect.
Let's do it.
Yep. So there, yep. So that's a map of the Goblin Cave that kind of the second half of the adventure takes place in. And so, but you're fighting goblins, ogres, wolves, that kind of thing. Pretty standard monsters. And then after that, you'll see a sample village. So that's basically just a 2-page spread, the village of Grimstead, and it's got 4 significant buildings. You got the Black Lion Inn, the Axe and Blade, which is a smithy, the Emerald Eye, which is basically a potion shop, and the Chapel of St. Lucia, so a local church. And so each of those has its own quest or adventure. Each of them has some pre-written NPCs, also the treasure from the adventure listed there. And so the first sample adventure is like a fully written out kind of hand-holding for you. The others are kind of the minimum information you need as a game master to run it. And then after that starting village, for the setting itself, you've got points of interest, and we've got four other places around this starting village that you could go and visit. And then after that, you'll find traveling merchants who randomly arrive at the village at a certain increment. And those all have quests with unique locations as well. And so you wind up with a kind of a small starting area, but enough to play over a dozen different sessions without having to come up with your own material.
Well, and we were talking about the art before we started recording.
Yeah,
so since you have that, the front cover, exactly.
Yep. So the front cover there, that's John Torres, or the Basic Expert. He did that as well as the cover for Horde Wars Advanced. He also did the map we were just looking at. And then the rest of the artwork in the book was done by Simeon Cochran.
Yeah, so we were mentioning before that I had seen this cover. You shared it on Twitter several times, and I had seen it, and I quite liked it.
Thank you.
But at the time, I don't know if you mentioned or not that John Torres was the author, but I don't think I've seen it. So the mention to the quiz name.
If you didn't notice, probably. I know I saw the cover, but I didn't. But sometimes on Twitter we have an overload of information.
Oh, for sure. And it's been interesting, trying to share this on Twitter and have people try out the game. So some days we get a decent number of sales, other days there's just nothing, and it doesn't seem to matter terribly if I change what I do.
I think we have the same feeling. So when one of the other you're talking about the vampire that I wasn't seeing, so maybe
so that piece of
artwork, can find it.
Yeah, that piece of artwork will be in there twice. Once will be by the vampires themselves in the monster section, and then the other place that you'll find it is in the base game rules on page 6. That's the written page 6, so it's probably like page 8 or something on the side, where we just use it as a spacer to make the layout a little cleaner.
I think it's this one. Yeah, it's page 6. I like this one as well. I had mentioned that before. It's
it doesn't have that thing that you don't like about the most. Well, I'm not going to call it D&D art, but the current D&D art that has that generic fluffy look.
Yeah, no, we wanted our villains to be villainous, to be actually evil and worth defeating. So, yeah.
Well, since you're talking about that, maybe we should talk about monsters now, perhaps. That's
sure.
Good. So what, I guess we can expect the usual things, but is there some specific kind of mythology that you went after here or not?
There's some fun things. So the dragons, for example, we've included some weak dragons, which, to be clear, since this basic is for levels 1 to 4, a weak dragon will probably still kill you all. We've included some weak dragons, though, and you'll see that they are unique individuals. Like there's some stuff that makes them dragons. If you want to scroll down, you can show some page 89, maybe.
Okay, this is...
Yep, you're a little too far.
There are some illustrations here. It's at 89, right?
Yep. There you go. So there's one of the dragons with his stat block.
This is the weak dragon.
Yes, this is a weak dragon. Okay. Characters, by the way, have 18 plus fitness as their starting hit points. So call it 18 to 22 hit points.
So how fatal is the system?
I would say that it is middling if the players choose to cooperate. If the players do not act as a team, they're going to die. And there is the chance for our random encounter table that you'll roll something that is well outside of what you should be fighting, and that's okay, because that's realistic in the real world, and also in fantasy literature. Sometimes you get an overwhelming challenge. And so we tried to keep it old school in that regard. Like you could just bump into like 40 goblins and go, crap. or you could bump into a dragon. The odds aren't weighted that way. It won't happen like every session, but it can happen. Our first playtest, we actually tried a party of 5 players against, I think it was like 30 goblins. And they managed to not all die. And they did defeat the goblins. And that kind of helped us know we were on the right track. But those were experienced gamers who were trying to fight as a group.
I see you chose defense as your version of armor class. We did the same thing. I like defense.
I do too.
A nice name for that. And it has it's more what should I say about it? More accurate than armor class, probably, because covers some other things besides armor.
Now, do you see the protection line there? So it'll be under fitness and stuff. Do you see that? Yep. So protection is something that players can get to from armor or from special items, but it basically means you take half damage from those damage types. And there are ways to get around it. Certain weapons can get past protection, but in general, this dragon will take half damage from physical attacks.
By the way, in spite of, I don't think if you mentioned that already. We mentioned that before. The D12, in spite of using a D12, this is still OSR.
Yeah, to an extent.
Partly. To an extent, yeah.
Yeah, to an extent. But yeah, so our dragons, though, are unique individuals. They have stuff like this particular dragon has this trample ability in his traits, which incentivizes him to behave in a particular way. He can also stun you with his breath attack. He can also do gale force winds and, at least temporarily, basically stop arrows from even hitting him. But if you look at one of our other dragons, they'll have different abilities, like Arnador the Wintergale on the next page. He can blend in with the snow. He has a freezing breath option, and he can summon blizzards. So he's got a way to mess with the environment. Corvash the Nightfire, he does extra damage against creatures that have moved. So if you start running around while you're fighting him, you'll actually give him more damage dice against you. He can make his breath weapon a 90-degree cone instead of 45. And he can also use the volcanic ash ability, so make it so other creatures cannot breathe in a basically 48-yard radius around him as volcanic ash begins falling. And so you either have to get out of there or you need to kill him quick and end the effect when he dies. Because if you can hold your breath during combat for a number of rounds equal to your fitness score, and after that you start gaining levels of affliction, which shrinks your die size. You get weaker and weaker as you fight him. And then obviously if your dice drop below a D4, due to a lack of ability to breathe, you die immediately, regardless of your hit points. And so he attacks the party in a different way than just trying to damage them directly.
So the dragons obviously wouldn't be the most common creatures here.
Quite true. Quite true. And so the Dracarans, we've got donkey-riding dragon men. Which is why the donkey stat block is there.
Yeah.
I was wondering why, especially because there was a lizard creature on top of the donkey.
Yep. That's a
Refers
picture
to
of the
raider.
Yes.
Not the donkey.
Yeah.
Well, a donkey can be a creature to fight.
Oh yeah. I
be.
don't know if you saw, but we did something funny with the donkey. Look at his stubborn trait.
Yeah, it's a typical donkey.
That's always fun to watch the players discover. Like if they decide to get some donkeys and use them to haul stuff, and then there's a problem, they're like, why won't it move? But so the Dracarans are kind of a threat to the south of the starting area, and we've got a variety of stat blocks anywhere from 12 to 90 hit points. They've got a caster, kind of a champion, a leader. They've got a slaver. So they're into humanoid sacrifice and worshiping dragons and enslaving people. They're not the best neighbors. And so we found that that's typically enough to get the players incentivized to want to kill them, which is the goal. But you'll see a few unique things in our game that aren't exactly classic monsters, like the dream poppies on the next page, or the false door on the page after that.
False door, that's interesting.
Yeah, our artist Simeon wound up, after we described how we wanted it to behave to him, he wound up drawing it this way, and we're like, that's awesome. Because if you can see, there's a little blood pool of the last guy he ate under the door. But yeah, this thing essentially can appear to be a door, and it will if you get close to it, it'll bite and swallow you whole and then digest you.
Yeah, I like these goblins.
Thank you. Yeah, so we got some ghosts, we got some goblins here. Now advanced will have all of these stat blocks, but it will include about 50% more monsters and beasts to fight. Yeah, the Goblin King is pretty fun. If you have a look at his maneuver, you first. You scroll down a little bit, you'll see the Goblin King.
Oh,
there you go.
This one is a unique creature or just a...
That's the generic Goblin King. Advanced will come with a unique named Goblin King as well. But have a look at you first. Let me know what you think of it. So a maneuver is something you can do once a round off turn.
Yeah. So what you're saying about maneuvers, is it?
So a maneuver is something you can do once per round of play, but it doesn't have to be your turn unless the maneuver specifies otherwise.
Okay.
So he can react to getting hit.
Okay, and get someone to get the hit for him.
Yeah. Yep. He can just grab his own allied buddy, his own goblin buddies, and shove them in the way of attacks.
Not nice. What is the king?
They're not his buddies. They're his servants.
They're his minions.
So. Exactly.
Yep. So we wanted to help play that up. Another thing that we did, if you go past, you'll see some golems like gargoyles and a shield golem, some terracotta warriors, which I think are underutilized. You'll see, if you have a look at the Lich after that, we've made a point. You're going a little too far, but that's okay. Yeah, we got Medusas and Minotaurs too.
Yes.
But if you look at the Lich, we actually have made a point to embed the full spell description for every spell for the casters in the stat block. So you're not having to go reference other pages. It's all right there for you.
Yeah, that's useful.
And the Lich is a good way to see that.
Yeah. I
like the Medusa drawing.
Yeah, it's a nice one as well.
Yeah, it looks pretty cool.
Yeah, this selection of creatures is very, very interesting.
And we got a bunch of other ones, some plant monsters, ogres. One funny thing, ogre chieftain. We wanted to emphasize that ogres are quite dirty and are very low tech. So giants, which will be in advanced, are high tech giant creatures. They've got spring steel and this kind of thing. The ogres don't. And so you'll notice that all the ogres are immune to disease, and they kind of need to be because of their chieftain's trait. So I don't know if you guys. It looks like you're a little ways ahead.
Okay. Yeah. I can't. Yeah. Also, I was trying to check because of I don't know it's going to be for other people, but I can't really read the screen.
You can zoom in, Miguel, if you want.
Yeah. Let's zoom in a little so it's easier for people. Probably.
Is it readable now?
Yeah. Yes, now it is.
I can zoom in a little bit more.
It's the chieftain, yes.
Okay.
Chieftain mask.
Yeah, so is a source of disease.
Yes.
Vector.
Yep. He's a source of disease. So every round you're next to him, unless you make your save, you get sickened, and the die you're rolling to try to hit or do anything else is getting lower and lower. We've got some oozes, we've got a pixie swarm, we got some skeletons, including a skeleton sorcerer and champion. Got some trolls, a lot of the kind of classic stuff. 3 different vampire stat blocks.
I'm going to accelerate now. So we can get
absolutely
to the last ones, the vampires. Here we are.
Seductress, Reaper.
Yep.
Vampire Lord.
Yeah, a Vampire Lord will frequently be able to solo a party, like fight them all by himself. So he's I've seen that go either way for a party, which is fine. I like a challenging game. We got some werewolves in here. 3 different stat blocks for them. We've got some wights, which for those of you not familiar with them, they're kind of like ghouls.
Yes, right, of course. That was the... At least, well, I think in Skyrim, they're all wicks, right? All the monsters in... the ghouls in Skyrim,
maybe.
I think most of them were wicks, yes.
That sounds about right. Yeah. Also, a lot of like Tolkien's writing, he's got specifically barrow wights. So it's basically just a undead that's got some of its flesh still clinging to it.
Now I see the picture. Yeah, they were white.
Yeah.
Skyrim. I can remember these guys there. But I think they have another name. I think.
Yeah, they use the
Skyrim. They use
word.
another name. Yeah, I can't remember the word, but it's not white. It's something else.
But it's the same sort of creature. That's that's correct. Will o' the Wisps. You know, we've also got like a mushroom threat. We have a witch who can turn you into a frog. So we put the frog stat block there because
can you be saved by a kiss from a prince or a princess?
No. What you can be saved by is either the full moon or her dying.
Okay, that's also good.
And so so we've got a bunch of those. We've got a bunch of zombies, and so on. And so the intent was to give you a pretty good array of monsters to fight, but we've also got a bunch of beasts. We included I think 3 or 4 dinosaurs in basic. Advanced, I think, has 6 dinosaurs in it. But we've also got some unique beasts, like if you want to check out page, where is it? There we go. If you want to check out page 81.
I typed 81, but it's not the correct 81.
Okay.
Yeah, it's here.
So this is a combination of a classic siren who like lures sailors to their death and a snail.
That's a interesting combination.
And so it can do like a piercingly loud shriek as one of its attack actions. It can slam into you, but it also has that luring call maneuver. So it can basically trick you with magic into approaching it. I have players right now who are playtesting for Advanced. They're about wrapped up. They're just playtesting some of our nautical encounter rules. But that one has become a horror game. As it turned out, they went to the wrong island and they've been stuck there for a while now. And now they defeated the main terrifying thing. And what's stopping them from leaving the island are 2 of these. And the players, not the characters, are scared of them. Because the same playtesters playtested before, and one of these took out a whole party. And they know that. And so the actual players are trying to find a way around leaving the harbor because there's 2 of these snails over by the entrance to the harbor.
Yeah.
Which has been a lot of fun to see them trying to figure out a way around the problem. But we got a few other ones. Like we went with for the Manticore, so that's listed as a beast. We went with the actual legends from Persia instead of whatever they did for D&D. So the description, and to be clear, the description was from travelers who weren't themselves from Persia, who claimed this monster lived there. But if you scroll up to the Manticore, it'll be on page 75. And you'll see a bunch of other monsters there as well. Yeah, that's the look that is that there are some real world travelers describing.
So it's a lion with a scorpion tail, right?
Exactly. The wings and shooting spikes and all that stuff, that's all D&D. I have no idea why.
Well,
I know I always confuse a bit. Well, no, I was thinking it's the Manticore with the Griffith, but no, there's something else that I confuse with. I'm probably confusing now the Griff. Oh no, it's the Griff with the RP, because they both have wings. So yes. The Manticore.
Yes. And so we did what we could to try to just give you all kinds of fun stuff. Like the cat you just scrolled past the page above this is a cat that that sees with echolocation and has lightning claws and is typically subterranean. And so you're finding this like in caves or abandoned mine shafts.
I think I have one like this under, and I think we have one like this living under our beds.
Yeah.
Cat number 6.
It's a little bit darker, but yeah.
Yeah.
That's cute. But yeah, so we got a bunch of stuff. Grim Jim seemed to really like on page 72 that we actually did a reference to one of his D&D monsters. So you want to scroll up for that?
72, right?
Yeah. So he has a monster that's a bit like this in that it has the same trait as glittering gold. Other than in his case, it just looks like coins. And what we did is we took the monster and redesigned it to give it a gem based on the gem embedded in its back, a mandible attack that does that an associated damage type. So the example in basic is an emerald gem beetle swarm that does acid damage. But advanced will include the others, which includes things like a ruby gem beetle swarm, and the ones with the rubies in their backs will do fire damage, or sapphires for electric, and so on. The only reason I didn't put that in basic is actually just because of the layout with the griffin and the gem beetle being on the same page. I just didn't have space for another sidebar to go, and here's how to make more gem beetles.
What's the format of this in print?
This is made to be printed on 8.5 by 11 paper. We did that so that people who wanted to could just print it at home. Some of the guys have done that and have been sending us pictures, which is fun, of the ways that they've printed and bound it. And so I'm thrilled that they're doing that. That was very much our intent, to make this easy to print, black and white at home, so that you could play with it that way as well. We're also selling physical copies, but not tons of them. This is primarily a digital product, and the intent was to make it as user friendly as possible.
So you didn't go for print on demand, right?
I'm actually working on that. I should have another sample back from Lulu in like 2 weeks, I think, maybe a week. So I'd like to get that set up, but no, like we actually just did some small print runs through. We've got 2 or 3 different printers that we're working with, depending on the binding style.
I think Lulu does a good job with her printings.
Yeah, I understand, and I like the fact that the small number printing, but at the same time, POD will give a chance if someone wants to get the book on paper, not printing themselves, they will always have it.
Yeah,
that's true. That's true. So with Lulu, I'm trying to get a hardcover set up. That's what I'm waiting to get. The first proof there were some issues with, and so I'm waiting to get the next batch back from them, and we'll see if that has fixed those issues. But I hear good things about them, and from what I've seen, like the binding's pretty good, which is the important thing there.
Yeah, it's very sturdy. Sometimes the print on demand it's kind of not really that good, but I think this, of course, sometimes it doesn't work, but
yeah,
most of the times.
Yeah. But we've also done a couple of print runs now of spiral bound plastic cover ones, and I was kind of surprised. People seem to really like those, and we sold out at the last convention of that binding style, and I was like, well, okay. So we're ordering some more, and we'll probably bring those to the next convention.
Well, I guess it's very practical at the table, and at the end of the day, this is where you should be using the game.
Exactly. It is practical because it lays flat.
Yeah.
Which is good if you're going to be referencing monsters a lot, Now, I don't know if you guys have heard much about the game, but the character creation, basically you get two careers or two classes, and you blend them and you stick them together to create your character. That's one of the things that makes you stand out as a player character. Most NPCs in the world will just be in a single career or a single class. And so an example of that, those are all in chapter 4. I don't know. Sylvia, what kind of thing do you like?
Well, it depends. I try not to always do the same character, but I'll try to. My character would be the rogue, because I'm a little bit of thief, but at the same time, I also want to be a warrior. But when we play fantasy, I'm always the game master in our group.
That's fair. So if you were to build a character, you might look at, for example, and these will be in alphabetical order in chapter 4. So you might look at, for example, the assassin. You might look at the deep delver. The assassin is pretty self-explanatory. They're good.
So what is the deep delver exactly?
The deep delver is a dungeon explorer who's good at springing traps, good at getting through protection on monsters, and has a special magic power that lets them get a vision of the last time a creature touched an object of their choice within close range. So think about, like, for Indiana Jones, this would have been really handy pretty much every time he goes exploring anywhere.
Yeah.
To avoid traps. But the same deal, if you want to sticking with that kind of rogue theme, you might also look at the thief, who's good at picking locks, forcing open doors, pickpocketing, and stabbing people in the back.
Yeah.
And so if you wanted to stick with just a classic kind of D&D rogue or similar systems like in Pathfinder, you would probably pick one or two of those careers as kind of the core of your character. And then maybe you'd want to branch out. Like maybe you'd want to play a thief who is really good with swords, is a good warrior. You might go to Blade Master, for example, which would be page 22 as is written on the bottom, or you can just scroll up.
Yeah. I probably have to scroll because
there you go. So have a look at Blade Master and see what that does for your survivability. If you can read it, Miguel might have to zoom in.
No, I just have to put it bigger.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh yeah, you can go to full screen.
And so you start with the skills listed. So a skill of your choice, art and culture skill, combat skill.
Combat.
And then all 3 of those abilities.
Yes. Courtier, Black Lasher. I like that one. Well, the courtier would be very good if you are a thief. If you're also a thief. Yeah.
Looking here, crowns and marks, so you don't use gold coins.
Correct. Well, crowns are gold coins, but no one in real life said gold coin.
Yeah.
That wasn't the name of the currency.
Yeah.
And so we did crowns, marks, and pence. Crowns being gold pieces, marks being silver, and pence being copper.
Yeah, makes sense.
And then when you build a character, when your starting equipment is one of the 2 careers that you pick. And so each career will give you a starting equipment package, and you can pick between the 2. And then you've got some starting money that you can spend to add to that equipment. And the whole goal with that is to get people able to play at the table somewhat quickly, so that someone who's just trying out this game can hopefully, they can use the sample characters in the back, or they can hopefully build characters and then play immediately, rather than do 1 or more sessions of, all right, how do we build characters?
Yeah.
One of those samples here.
Yeah. We've got 7 sample characters in the back.
So, and what about races? What character races do you have?
I know you can play dwarf. There's one here.
You've got dwarves, orcs, halflings, elves, and humans. So the classic 4 plus orcs. We wanted to make orcs different from goblins, so we've really embedded kind of the Viking culture or the Norse culture for the orcs in our setting. So they typically raid along the seacoast in longships, and they're looking for slaves or silver. But they are like a civilized species. Like you could trade with them. You could possibly hire them to do work for you. You could bribe them. Whereas the goblins are actually quite monstrous. Like, not only will they try to eat you, but they are so greedy. I don't know if you guys saw it earlier, but they have a trait called goblin greed that basically means there's a 75% chance whenever they see treasure, they just run towards it. And once the players figure that out, they have a great deal of fun fighting goblins. They'll do stuff like chuck coins down a well. Or off a cliff.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. Orcs, probably the coolest thing about them, though, for our setting, is that they have a regenerative ability that means after a minute of not being damaged, they regain their full health, which makes them quite durable for an extended series of fights. In our system, other than with magic healing, right, like a priest or something using supernatural powers to heal you, or an acolyte healing you, you can only benefit from a healing potion once a day. And otherwise, to regain hit points, you have to have 24 hours or more of peaceful rest. Simply sleeping overnight doesn't give you health back. And that's one of the ways we've kept the danger there. Because I don't know about you, but I found playing in stuff in pretty much 3rd edition on D&D or Pathfinder or that kind of thing, 5th edition in particular, it felt like the characters got more and more durable and harder, and it was not harder to challenge them, but it was harder to challenge them within the game rules. Like the listed monsters just didn't threaten them in the way they should.
And if the game becomes too easy for the players, there's no fun.
Exactly.
It just becomes too easy. Yeah, I think we had that experience not with D&D. Yeah, we had that experience with when we played Mutant Chronicles. Remember? By the end, my character was like a superhero.
Yeah, yeah. Well, in D&D it happens even in the older editions. But from what I've heard, 5th edition is supposed to be easier, right? Much easier.
Yeah, I ran 5th edition for a few years, and that's why I started working on a game with my co-author Nate, because we both had significant things we did not like about that edition. And while I'm told that some of the stuff that we came up with mirrors a few things or are similar to some things in 4th edition, neither of us liked 4th edition. Nate tried and played it. I read one of the books and went, nope.
I don't think I've ever seen that one.
It was not popular.
Yeah, no.
I think nobody liked. Yeah, that was the one nobody liked.
Yeah.
Failure.
Well, when I just read the book and did some math, I realized that if you didn't play like a dragon as an idiot, the base dragon fight would take all day, like the entire session of play to win for either side. Like, as long as he played sort of smart and didn't just like land and sit there for the party to pound on him. And that's unfortunate. But I looked at that and went, that does not look fun. Yeah. So do you have any other questions about like the game or
Well, I guess we can talk about your plans for the other books if you want a little also, because you also mentioned that in the beginning. So I'm not sure if...
Sure. So Advanced is a direct sequel to Horde Wars Basic, and it'll have 3 additional chapters, one of which is the setting, one of which is for nautical adventures, and then one of which is for like domain play, running your own kingdom or barony or that kind of thing. And it'll also include about 50% more monsters and stat blocks to fight, mostly higher level stuff, to accommodate and challenge the higher level players, because it has the levels 5 through 12 content. And so that's one of them. Dragons, for example, we have 4 in this book in Basic. There will be 7 in Advanced. That kind of thing. And then the one we're working on after that I've been doing writing for the last month or so, and we've got active playtesting going on now, is a superhero game that the working title is Heroes of Franklin City. It's a dark future, kind of a cyberpunk dystopia, in which there are superpowered beings, most of which are not your friend.
Mm-hmm. So that's going to use the same system, but in the end, it's a different game, right? Completely different, because it's not going to be fantasy.
Correct. But it uses the same kind of core game engine of like how to build your character, how your character interacts with the world, how the core rules work. Obviously, it includes some other stuff like for modern vehicles and that kind of thing. But it uses the same game engine. And then we are also working on a as yet untitled sci-fi one, which we've had in development for a while, and actually wound up writing Horde Wars as part of its development. Because we got a pretty solid space combat system down. We had, I think, 7 real players controlling 30 or 40 spaceships, and they finished the fight in under 2 hours, which was great. And they like it was a fun experience. But what the challenge for that was making cool player character abilities, not the starship scale, the personal scale. And so one weekend when Nate was out of town, I wrote 1 week, I should say, when Nate was out of town, I wrote like half of Horde Wars Basic.
And I guess you're not going to forget about rules for space combat, correct?
Oh, right. Yes. In fact, that's the part that we did well so far. And then we are so once we have Advanced released, then we'll be we'll be resuming playtesting on the sci-fi game. But our goal is basically to have them coming out about a year and a half apart.
That be a space opera?
I would describe it as more hard sci-fi. Yeah, we tried out some stuff that was more of a space opera genre, and I think on the whole decided that might belong in a supplement. We want something a bit more akin, not for rules, but for setting purposes, to something like the Expanse, or something even like Traveler, which is Traveler's not super grounded, but it's somewhat grounded in actual physics. So so those are the other projects we're working on currently, and it's been fun. We would have had Horde Wars out like 2 years ago, except that I got a crippling leg injury, which put me out of commission for a while. As it is, I can walk, but not far.
So you are planning to do more settings after those?
Yeah. I mean, that's the plan. But we when we sell you these, we want to have the entire game basically in one book. Horde Wars Advanced will be complete, including through level 12. Basic, we are selling at much less than we would sell one of the full books for. It's not short. It's like 194, 196 pages. And it's a complete game for levels 1 through 4. But in general, we don't want you to waste money. That's why this is cheap. Like we want you, when you buy one of our games, to be able to play it for years. And so we've done some things to make that possible. Even if you look in Basic, if you look at the treasure tables, there are, depending on which table you're looking at, 4,000 or 10,000 possible iterations on those tables. So you can get unique items over and over. Now, some of the tables are more limited in that, like, you might be rolling a very specific magic item that we wrote up, but the ones that generate the items on the tables, like for magic weapons, you'll get a good variety for potentially years of play. And we want all of our games to go that way, where, kind of like the rules cyclopedia for old D&D, that you can just buy that book and you have the whole game. That's very much the style that we want to be in. Rather than doing large amounts of supplements or anything like that, we want you to have everything you need to play.
Would you like to talk about the setting?
Yeah, I mean, for Horde Wars Basic, you'll have hints of the setting, especially in the skill descriptions, and in the descriptions for the careers, as well as among the NPC stat blocks. But in general, you're dealing with an area about the size of Western Europe. There are 7 countries that you're interacting with. One dominated by orcs, one by elves, one by Dracarans, and the rest by humans. Halflings, their homeland, the Dracarans took over. And so halflings now live kind of either as slaves of the Dracarans or as refugees in the human kingdoms. And the human lands are basically themed off of, one's themed off England, one's themed off medieval France, and one is themed off of the Holy Roman Empire. And then we have a small country called Brigmar, called Ansburg, who broke off from Brigmar, and that country is analogous to Switzerland. in that it's a breakaway province of a much larger empire that was only able to break away because of favorable geography. And so that's the general setup. And the Crusaders that you'll see are typically campaigning against the Dracarans, that monstrous race of dragon men, because they are trying to reclaim the homeland of the halflings, which also had a major temple dedicated to the most popular deity in the setting. And so the human kingdoms are largely monotheist. The orcs are polytheists. There's also a tribe of kind of barbarian humans off to the east called the Easterns, because that's just what the people in the main area of the setting call them, because they're to the east. That's obviously not their name for themselves. And they're actually themed off the Picts. So they paint themselves blue and head into battle on wagons pulled by bulls, which is pretty fun. The main difference from history is that we made their woad actually work. And you'll find that in Horde Wars Basic. If you go to the NPCs section, you scroll down, you'll find human barbarians, and you will actually see that material. Trying to think of what else setting wise you'd want to know. So it's a fairly detailed setting. But we only have a little of it, just enough to kind of get you going in Basic. Advanced will have a full chapter on it, including I think 30 or 40 different adventure locations for you to kind of experience the setting and not just read about it.
Yeah, and it makes sense because we know that some people, they'll just want to homebrew their own world, right? So that way they can go with Basic. If they just want to create their own setting, so you create that differentiation in your for your buyers also.
Right. And the thing is, we designed it so that we're only exploring a small area of the total world. So it's very easy for you to add additional content because we want you to do that. I know for me in my own gaming that I found that quite fun, quite rewarding. I don't want a setting that is just full.
Yeah, I think we did this, especially with our fantasy game. We did the same, and that is then we can make up more things if we want to, and or people can just create their own.
Yeah. And so, but we do have a description of all of the sample nations in the and the religions in the among the skills. So under the faith skill, you'll find the description of the religions. Under the history and law skill, you'll find the sample nations. But something that we did that I'm quite happy with is under the language skill. We actually have descriptions of how the languages are written, so that the game master can give soft clues to the players about what language they're encountering, like in an ancient ruin. So, for example, Dwarven is written in blocky runes. The Elven language is written in an elegant flowing script. Or the Goblin language is in crude pictograms. Or the Orcish language is in jagged cuneiform wedges. Like those kinds of descriptions, I think, add a fun element to the game.
Yeah.
I don't know if you mentioned when is the expansion.
Advanced. Yeah. We are aiming for 11 to 17 months from now, and that the main delay point there is one, publishers, like whether or not we can get printing done in a timely manner. And then secondly, how quickly our artists get done. As last time, there were some delays, like we talked about a little bit. And we've got one guy who is working on stuff right now. Like he just showed us some border art 2 days ago. And It's really just a question of how quickly the other artists get their stuff to us. So we wanted a little wiggle room, but 11 to 17 months, and I would prefer the 11.
Where this one? Where in which places are you selling it?
So we are selling it both directly at conventions, or if you want to email us. We are also, I will put this in the private chat, and then you can list it maybe in the video or something. We're also selling it on Big Geek Emporium, so there's that link. And then as far as contacting us for direct sales, I can get you that link as well. There we go. So you would want to contact us. You'd either go to Big Geek Emporium and search for Horde Wars, or we should be right on the front page currently. Also, you can email us directly, hordewars@blackwallgames.com. That is our public-facing email that we use for direct sales.
So you are not selling a drive-through?
No. Two reasons. One, to get the same profit margin as on Big Geek Emporium, I would have to charge $9 or $10 a copy instead of $5. Yeah. And secondly, drive-through has made it quite clear that our first book would already violate their terms of service in multiple ways.
Would it?
I don't know.
We have cannibalism, slavery, and
Crusaders. I was thinking when you were talking about the Crusaders, that's very problematic.
Oh yes. We have cannibalism. We have slavery. We have occult practices on the part of some of the villains. We also have children in danger in the very first adventure.
Oh, that's a question. Sorry, because as you know, everybody knows we left drive-through some months ago. So have they become? I know, but have they become worse with their rules?
I think that their enforcement leans pretty hard towards is disproportionately applied. I think that their enforcement would lean towards anyone with either conservative or independent views from an American political perspective, and it seems to be not applied really at all to those who are in line with the liberals or Democrats in our country.
Yeah, well,
I felt that was what was also happening to us, but it's always good to see that people agree, and it was not us being paranoid or trying to play the victim. Because even before we were getting flagged for a lot of things that were
people were complaining, reporting our titles as offensive. And of course, the first time you try to publish through them, they will revise the book. So
everything, yes.
Yeah, they can find the offensive stuff.
Yeah, I am considering also selling through Giant Slayer, but I'll probably wait until we have Advanced ready to do that. Largely because I've talked with the guy who runs Giant Slayer games, and it sounds like it's a pretty solid deal and stuff, but I've actually met the guys who run Big Geek Emporium. I gamed with them for a weekend. Nate's gamed with them for 2 weekends. And they and so I would rather at least up front be doing business with people I've met that I know to a degree, and for that matter are local, like they live in our state. So the money that they get from us is money that's going right back into it's being spent to help people that we also know, like whereas I have no idea where the guy who runs Giant Slayer games where he's located. Like
I don't even know his name, but we are selling at Giant Slayer too, and it works nice. The only advantage I think that the Big Geek probably has, it's an older store. It has been around for about a year, and well, that's I suppose it's an advantage over Giant Slayer games. It's Giant Slayer has a couple of months, maybe 3 months.
Right. Right. Like I'm open to going there, but I think I'd want to wait still for another 6 to 12 months because for the moment, I mean, I'm sure I'm confident that the two of you have far more sales than we do overall. But at the moment, at least on Big Geek Emporium, we're like their third highest seller with Horde Wars Basic. One of your titles is ahead, by the way.
It's a free
but I
one.
think it's the free one, yes.
Yeah.
But no, I think that makes sense because now, of course, I think we are selling more in our own store because we opened our own store. There's also a reason for selling less, but it's good to be on the other stores just in case someone discovers us.
No, some people for different reasons prefer to buy in some
Exactly, and
store.
we have people that like to buy on Big Geek because they also want to support Big Geek, and there are some people that like to buy on Giant Slayer. So,
oh yeah, that makes sense. And I think long run, I'll be mirroring you guys in that way. Other than I might not decide to manage my own store. As it is, I'm functionally doing bookkeeping for 2 different companies right now, and I don't know if I want to add to the burden. Because my, I changed professions rather dramatically after my leg injury. I had been doing security, where I was basically protecting rich people, often from themselves. And then, and I am no longer able to do that. And so instead, I have begun working at my local church. And I, among other things, I help run the office and I do bookkeeping there.
Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't. That wasn't something that I would like to have done, but after drive-through, it was the obvious course of action. I already had a site, so it was just basically added a store to the website that was already there.
How are you guys doing? I know you said that the last month or so that you haven't been thrilled with sales on Twitter.
For some reason this last month, or for several reasons perhaps, they weren't. This month was much worse than the other ones. But well,
it hasn't been bad. Let's say that's the last.
No,
well,
not really bad.
We saw a bit of growing. So overall, I think we are selling. Well, we are making the same money that we were doing when we were just in drive-through. Of course, we are selling less, but because you already know how high are the commissions in drive-through, so.
Yeah, I don't miss that one. Yeah,
and in
that's
our
something I
store,
don't miss.
the man is all for us.
Yeah,
but we are selling a lot less. At the same time, the thing is that when suddenly people stop selling, our concern is, okay, is this just a bad month? People are spending money in other stuff, or are people fed up with us? Did we do something wrong? You always have that.
Gotcha. So one thing I wanted to invite you to do. I did set up a gilded server for people who buy the game, like in the last week. But I have it set up also. The reason I said it, the reason I did that is so that people who buy our game can come and play with us. So if they're just like, well, I'm not sure how to run this, that we'll literally play a game with them. But I wanted to invite you, even though I've only shared the book with you. If you would like to, I would love to play a game with you. If you're willing to try ours at some point.
If we can arrange for that, because we have a problem with people. Yeah, with
scheduling is always a problem, but maybe.
Yeah.
Well, if this time, yes, if probably during the weekend, because that's a problem with us for scheduling with people in the US. Is this the time difference?
Lately, we have been running sessions with Americans, but I think Americans and British, but they don't really have a work schedule. I think one of them is retired and the other one unemployed, I think.
I think I can make it work because, again, due to the injury, I'm working part-time now, so I have some days where I'm more free, and so if you're at all interested, I would certainly love to do that. And it's always cool to hear, especially from people who have been designing games for a while, what they think both on reading it and both what they think after playing. One of the main reactions we get with Horde Wars is people who've never tried it before but have played other RPGs seem to really like the speed of the turn order. Like a lot of the 3rd or 5th edition D&D players or the Pathfinder players, they'll come and play our game and be surprised how quickly their turn's coming up, which is a good problem.
Yeah.
And then and we did some significant rules tweaking to kind of help that happen. But I'm glad to see it was effective.
Do you guys normally, what is the size of the group? I think you mentioned 7 people in one of the. So normally, what is the type of because I think that we normally, our groups will be no more than 5 or 4 or 5, because then I feel that it makes the game slower for. So sometimes it's also that, right? The people have like 10 people.
Oh, sure.
Of course, it will take time for your turn to come.
I think the most ridiculous I've done, and that wasn't with our game, that was actually with 3rd edition D&D, was I ran a 14-person group. It helped there were a lot of couples, though, and they tended to act in tandem. That helped speed things up. But no, for Horde Wars, I think an optimal group is probably 4 to 6 players. You could play with less. But for playtesting, I've run as low as 2 or 3, or as high as 8 or 9. And we've had other game masters running as well. And so we've gotten a pretty good pretty good amount of feedback of kind of the range of about 3 to 8 players seems to work well. At conventions, the last convention I was able to make, I was sick for the most recent one. The last one I made, I guess they had too few role-playing games available. So ours filled up and we actually had overflow, which is great since no one had heard of our game. So we wound up running groups of 7. I think six different 3-hour sessions of 7 players each. And then we had a couple overflow tables as well. So I think, so that was really cool. But seven worked, actually. It was still quick enough that we were getting done with the adventure in the 3-hour time slot. I don't know if that helps answer the question.
Yes. It's just because sometimes I know that people like 12, 14, those huge groups.
Even online, and I don't think it works that well.
I personally don't like it as a player or in a game master also.
Yeah. No, for a game for us, I would want to do probably the 2 of you. I could run the game, and then probably 2 or 3 others. Probably 2 others, I think would work fine.
Yeah, I'm not saying not just thinking of us, but just in general, because we're talking about gaming. That's
of course. In general, my in-person groups that I'm running are, I believe, 6 or 7 players each. At right now, and they're doing play testing for that superhero game. And then the one I'm playing in, I believe, is 5 players.
Do you run games online usually or not?
So those are the in-person games. I also am running games online. I just switched over to doing it through my own Guilded server, which again I set up in the last week. So it's got 15 or 20 people on there. It's not a lot of people yet, but we send an invite to anyone who buys our game, and a decent number of them have shown up. And so we are offering one-shots or participation in ongoing campaigns there. And so we're just getting that started, and we've got one that's filled up next week Saturday, and then one that's still got a couple spots open the following week. And so I'm probably going to be trying to do one a week, though it won't always be Saturdays. And some of them will be ongoing campaigns, like that's happening every once a month, but it's the same characters leveling up. and others will be one-shots.
It makes sense because in the end, the best way for people to publicize a game is to have people playing it.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely.
There's no better way, right?
Yeah, there's always that problem that people don't know what the rules are, how the game works. So yeah, having games.
Yeah, I think I'd have to double check the document, but I think we were able to condense to basically get our core rules to fit in like 10 pages. So the core rules of the game, it's not too bad. But when you get to advanced, same core rules. None of that will have changed, but you'll just have more like character options and that kind of thing. But the complexity of some of the monsters will have increased because you're dealing with ones that are meant to fight 10th or 12th level characters, which has been really fun to play test, because sometimes our low level groups in play testing bump into the high level monsters.
What is the top level of for characters in
12? We thought we'd lean into the D12 theme.
Yeah.
Okay, makes sense.
But also our game is oriented in kind of 3 tiers of play or 3 tiers of difficulty. And so levels 1 through 4 is the first tier, levels 5 through 8 is the second, and then 9 through 12.
So a 12 level character will be like what, a very heroic character, but still under the human possibilities, or just
so if you want to think about it that way, a 12th level character, it would be equivalent to the top end of human, but would typically have some pretty specific unique abilities. Like for a magic caster, you'd have a bunch of spells that obviously normal people don't have, or for a crusader, you could channel solar damage through your weapons. Well, that normal people can't do that.
Yeah.
So you get some of that kind of stuff, but on the whole, player characters, even on the top end, are going to be weaker than like dragons or demons or these kinds of things. Like they don't become gods in our game. There's no intent of that. The intent is to be a more grounded and challenging game. Our characters do start off competent. Like a red wizard will have stuff like haste and fireball. He's not a dung farmer who's learned a single spell and then he can do nothing. But they do not. But at the top end of the curve, the top end of the player progression is not world shattering.
I like that. Yeah, that's one of the things I don't like. The new hero, right? The boy from the village, that suddenly he's a hero, but in the reality, he can't do almost anything. But I also don't like the superhuman characters.
Yes. Now, obviously, we do lean into that more for the superhero game, but that's because of the genre.
Yeah,
of course.
Yeah, so it's been really good talking with you. Do you have any other questions, any comments? Because I kind of, as we briefly mentioned, I kind of agree with you about the sort of either controlling your own sales or kind of decentralized approach to selling, staying away from DriveThruRPG or other kind of dominant sites. I think is probably better. But do you have any other thoughts on that? I mean, Miguel, I thank you for retweeting. I haven't seen you too much, Sylvia. But
no, I've been a bit, especially this week. I've been a bit busy with my day job.
So. Yeah, that makes sense. But I'm happy to retweet yours. Ideally, without any nudity on the cover on Twitter for obvious reasons. Both both their
not all of us have, yes, but not all of our books have nudity. Let's break that.
Yeah, most have nothing like that. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
I'm aware.
Not in the cover.
Not in the cover, yes.
Exactly.
Sometimes inside, but not in the cover.
That's perfect.
That's one thing that we usually didn't have when we were at drive-thru, because that that relegates you to a different
yes.
section, the mature section. So it was
Oh yeah.
less exposure, and that's one of the things that the drive-thru has that no one of the other stores has, that the exposure.
True.
When you launch a product, and that's something that it's very difficult to get. But well, that's a choice.
It is. It is. I'm content to kind of grind it out and let try and get people playing the game, and if they like it, they'll tell their friends.
Yeah, that's a good approach. I think we didn't go as much with that in mind, because there's most of our customers are in the US, and it's not that easy to schedule stuff. But yeah, I think that's probably a very wise approach. If you start playing with people and start having people coming to your games, I think they will.
Well,
start.
I would say just if the people that we have now, if they keep coming, that's should also be a good sign. They haven't run away yet.
Maybe invite some other people. Well, of course, there was another reason. When we started, I wasn't feeling confident on running games in English. My writing is much better than my oral skills, and so I wasn't ready for that. Now I don't mind.
I understand. Due to weird circumstances of earlier in my life, I can write a fair amount of Indonesian, mostly slang. Can't speak a word of it.
Yeah, it's always easy to write stuff. You have time to think about it and all that, and even running an interview is different, because the interviewee usually speaks much more.
Yes, exactly. That's our motto. And not every channels do that, to be fair. We just invite you and you can talk about whatever you want. You're the interview.
But running a
interviewee,
game,
so you do the talking.
Yeah.
As a game master, especially as a game master, it requires some not some skills, but a lot of skills, lots of skills, and one of them are English skills, in this case, English skills.
Now I should ask, because if anyone is watching at this point in the video, they were clearly excited about role-playing games. Do you guys have anything coming out soon? Is there anything that I should be looking for?
We have we always have something coming.
Well, but the next big thing would be Interbellum, correct, Miguel?
Yeah. Yes, it's kind of a sequel to Wretched Epoch, which is in the Belle Epoch, and the next one will be the period between World War I and World War II.
Oh, so cool!
It's a investigative horror, perhaps a bit of that, but also pulp adventures and Lovecraftian horror as well.
I know a couple guys who really enjoy your game system, and so I've gotten the opportunity to review some of the material that they're writing for your games, and yeah, it looks pretty fun.
A couple of people. Okay, so you're thinking about DOGGM? Is that?
So one of them is online is Raven Wolfgar.
Oh yeah, Raven.
Yeah, Raven. Another one is online as Rune Knight.
Oh, okay. Yeah. They started.
We haven't talked to them for a while, so.
Yeah, they started
actually, I think Rune almost disappeared online. So Rune, if I haven't seen him, so hi Rune.
Yeah, I haven't seen him in a while. Raven had started a.
Well, I read a little bit of his thing, and I also we played a bit with Joe. Right, when he did at Orpheum Lofts and he came to play as Empire to test a little bit. He's still owning us for us to run a game for us.
Yeah.
With the vampire rules.
Oh yeah. No, he's a fan of that as well.
Yeah. Loves
but I'm also curious about your superheroes game.
So you have played with that?
That game.
Is that what he said?
No. I'm saying I'm also curious about the superhero one. So the one that when you talked about your game.
Yeah. That one, like I said, we've got active playtesting going now in person, and I'm hoping to get online playtesting going in January or so, maybe February, because I have to rewrite our setting chapter in January. Because when I did the original writing for Horde Wars Advanced, I had not considered layout, and now there are parts that have to be longer and parts that have to be shorter.
Yeah.
That's why the fact that Miguel uses AI, then he can use the art to cover the holes.
Yeah, I do that a lot. Even before stock art is good for fillers.
Yes, it does.
I use lots of fillers.
We did wind up hiring a guy to do layout for this upcoming book, and so I'm hoping that will do. I'm hoping that will be good. We kept it, like I said, pretty basic, pretty plain for Horde Wars Basic. I think Advanced will be a little prettier. And then if that works well, I'm hoping to get him to do the superhero book as well, because I've looked at his artwork. He does some art as well, and it looks pretty good for that genre. Actually, it looks a lot like 90s cartoons, like the kind of art style that I've seen him draw. And I hope I can get him to do that.
Yeah, 90s cartoons are nice. A nice style for that's the one I would choose if I was paying for art for a superhero game.
Yeah. But if you're interested in trying that one out, I can. I think I can do it here. Let me see. Just take me a second to load the right thing. And all right. So this is not a thing to share, but this is for both of you. If you would like to pop on there, that's where we will be organizing the games.
Okay.
And that is I think the link's good for like a week or so, and then it will naturally time out. But I hope you do check that out, and it's a really fun change of pace. We picked up a bunch of miniatures that I've been working on. I'm not a great artist in general, but I'm a decent miniature painter, and so we've been building like custom heroes and villains and stuff, and it's been really fun to see the players' reactions as I kit bash those for the in-person games. Yeah, so thanks for having me on, and if you have a moment once you conclude the stream, I would love to talk with both of you briefly after as well. But thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Thanks for having me on.
Okay.
Thank you for joining. And guys, so stay tuned. We will share the links in the description.
As usual, and well, thank you for watching. Bye-bye.